I'm Diana from Diana Marie Home, and I am back for our 4-week garden tour. I cannot believe the garden's been in for a month. It's been really fun tracking the progress through these garden tours, and I'm really excited to show you what has changed in our garden in the last week. Okay, we'll start at the greenhouse like we always do, but first I just want to show you guys the field out there. You can also see Kurt walking with the dogs and the chickens, which is super cute. I think they are looking for food. This is around the time he goes out and feeds them. First the field. A farmer rents that field from us, but it just has grown so much, so I'll try to start showing that. In my last videos, you've probably been able to see it's just looked like dirt. So I can't take credit for that, but it is super cool. The thing that I can take credit for is this whole area down here used to be filled with weeds because while I was building the garden area, it just got away from me, and those weeds were as tall as this rock wall. And just yesterday, my dad and his girlfriend were over, and while my dad worked on the greenhouse, she helped me carry away all the weeds I was cutting out, and so it was such a huge help and made such a difference. I got to go in there with my whippersnipper, but it is looking so much better. You can kind of see the weeds on the other side of the fence. That's how tall the ones in this whole area was. So I'm really excited about that. It's the little things that make a huge difference around here. And then inside you can see a little piece of what my dad was working on. He's got all the wood cut for the lower walls, so we will be putting walls on the greenhouse. That's what we're working on now. The flower boxes are doing really, really well. And then inside, it's kind of a mess right now. I have my flag up for 4th of July weekend and a ton of chairs around the table because last week when I did the garden tour, I was preparing for my friends to come over. They came over Friday and we had dinner in the greenhouse, and it was a dream. It was an absolute dream. We were eating dinner and the chickens and the sheep were out in the field, and it was just such a dream come true. It was so much fun. So there are a lot of extra chairs around the table right now. Okay, I need your advice for something in the greenhouse. You know that since I found this antique table, I plan to build the shelves around the measurements of the table to make this table work. It's a little bit wider than I would have built if I built one, but I love the table. It has had so many talks and dinners and meetings around it already. The table's staying. So I'm building the shelves to work with the table, which means that they're probably going to be only 12 inches out of the wall, maybe even 10. And this is what I have to decide. I want there to be 2 shelves. Should the shelf be down low at the bottom of this window and then at the bottom of this window? Or should the shelves be in the middle of each window? I originally was thinking I wanted them in the middle. I thought that would look nice and kind of give that look of there being a separation in the middle of the window. But my dad and I were thinking about ways we could make the windows still open for ventilation, and it would be a lot easier to have the shelves here and here. So let me know what you think in the comments below, what you would do. The other thing is if the shelf was in the middle of the window here, it would be at a normal shelf height, about table height, maybe slightly taller, which would be nice for working. If it was down under the window, it would be just above knee height, so kind of an awkward placement for a shelf. It would make really good storage, and what I'm kind of thinking to justify that would be I could do all my planting and stuff at a chair at this table, and then when I was done with the plants or whatever I was working on, I can move it over to the shelves, store it, and, do most of the work here at the table. So I'm stuck. I need your help. Please let me know what you would do if you were me. Leave your suggestions in the comments. What's changed a lot is the whole garden area, and that's what I cannot wait to show you. You can see the rocking chairs also found their home, so I picked those up last week and hadn't had them on the patio yet. They were very much enjoyed for my girls' night, and yeah, we really like them out here. It's nice having the rocking chair option. So if we start over here in the herb bed, things are kind of starting to fill in a little bit. Over here, I planted some dill, which I only remember because I actually labeled that one, and that's coming up, so that will fill in that bare space. And then I think I got one little tiny cilantro that now that I'm doing this, I'm seeing died. Oh, maybe that might be another one right there. So I'm really, really hoping that some of the cilantro germinates, but we'll see on that. The parsley has made a great comeback, and even the chives are doing a lot better and filling in. But something that I wanted to show you guys, I've been waiting. I'm going to dry some of this basil, and I just wanted to show you how I pick it. You can either use sharp shears or just your nail, and what I do is I look for in the plant, if I just need a couple leaves, I'll just come in towards the bottom and take these bigger leaves so more light can get to the smaller leaves. But if I'm taking a good amount of basil, I'll come in here to where there's a V, and I'll take just above that V. Ooh, this one's really stalky, so I'll need to get snips for this. It's not going to break with just my fingers, but I would pinch off right there. And then once that top part's gone, these two branches will be able to really grow out, and you'll end up with a bushier plant instead of a tall, thin one. Okay, I just grabbed my snips, so I'll go back down to that spot that I showed you just above that node. Okay, this is what I can use for cooking. I'm gonna dry this out, and then here in the plant you can see what it looks like. So these two branches will branch out and create a bigger, bushier plant, and you can tell that someone definitely pinched this early on because this plant's coming out. I can also do the same thing on this guy. This one I'm gonna look at. I'm gonna actually take it down to here. So you can see again, I just took it out just above those nodes, and so now these two will be encouraged to branch out. And I'm left with some really nice basil to use. I also have a really nice sunflower coming up here, which reminds me, I want to give you an update on the mint. Here's the mint that I keep on the patio, and this stuff just keeps growing like crazy. It's totally taking over the pot, and I love how it's just falling over the pot. And then these sunflowers that I grew next to it are doing really well, and I have some zinnias that will hopefully grow before they get shaded out there. Over to the lettuce bed, not doing super great. So I did have this lettuce that came up, but a lot of it is getting eaten by some sort of bug. I'm not quite sure what, and so I'm gonna have to look at some organic ways. I'm thinking maybe diatomaceous earth. I'm not sure. I don't really like to put anything on lettuce because I like being able to, you know, eat it without having to wash it too thoroughly, but we'll see. I have to troubleshoot this. I just last week planted some radish here, so you can see those are just starting to come up. I harvested my first radish this week as well, which I don't think I shared on my last week garden tour, and I do like radishes, so that's really exciting. Here is the cress that I'm growing, and next to it, I've seen these throughout my garden, and I can't remember, I'm not sure if this is okra or a weed. I do remember planting okra in different beds, thinking it would be a good idea because it'd grow taller than other things, and I just don't know. So I might be babying weeds here. Here's the flower garden. It's doing really well. Things are really starting to come up. I didn't label a lot of what I put in here, so it's a little bit of a mystery, but I'm pretty sure this is my amaranth, and I'll be getting ready to pinch this in the next week or so. I'm just waiting for it to get a little bit taller, but I've read that you want to pinch amaranth so that you end up with a lot of tall stems with more usable flowers instead of just one big stalky flower. So I'll show you when I do that. Same thing with dahlias. These were already pinched. You can see, just like I did the basil, you pinch the top of the dahlia, and that encourages more flowers with longer stems. The bush bean garden is doing so well. Last week I planted some dragon tongue beans, and you can see one is coming up. And yeah, we still have a lot of flowering going on. You can see this is a purple bush bean, and you can see the purple flowers on there. It's pretty cool. So no beans yet, but I'm thinking probably pretty soon. This garden is really exciting. These are my green peppers and radish and carrots. So in this area, the radishes are just about ready to be harvested. You can see one right here starting to pop out. So this is my first year growing radish, so I'm not super sure when you harvest them, but like this one, just pull that out and they're good to eat right now. I just don't know if they might get a little bit bigger, but really exciting. I enjoy growing these radishes, and I'm going to be trying them roasted. I just tried them raw to see what they're like, and they're a very strong pepper flavor in my opinion. But yeah, pretty good. I'm excited to try them roasted. So I'll be harvesting this probably sometime this week, because I think that my pepper plants need some more room in here at this point. They're still looking good, but the plants along this row are a lot smaller compared to the ones in the middle and the ones on the side that are able to get more light. And then over in this little area is where I planted the carrots from 2015 that I didn't think would do very good because I didn't store the seeds well. But I'm pretty sure that these little things are all carrots. And there's quite a few in this area. You know, it wasn't a great germination rate, but I was surprised because I had very low expectations. And then you can just see how well the peppers are doing. I started putting Epsom salt on the peppers and tomato plants, and they seem to love them. If you remember last week, I was talking about how I think I was trying to figure out the difference between the two pepper beds. This last week, I put some Epsom salts on these peppers that didn't seem to be doing as well. And I have to say, I think in that week, they still have not caught up to the other bed, but I do think there's been an improvement. So I think those Epsom salts, there's something to be said about that. These zucchini plants are also doing pretty well. A lot of flowers. Haven't harvested any fruit yet, but look at how big this guy is. Oh my goodness, that grew overnight. That's really exciting. That means that we will be getting a zucchini pretty soon. There's actually another one growing right there. It's really exciting. Zucchini might be one of my favorite summer vegetables. And tomatoes, that's a tough one. There's some onions growing in there too. And more radishes. This radish bed didn't germinate as well, but I think the chickens are the reason for that. This potato bed has just blown me away by how quickly these things grow. The first time growing potatoes, these are just potatoes from my pantry that were starting to grow, and I threw them in the garden. Pretty sure you're not supposed to do that from what I've read, but I gave it a try. I think it was this one, I tried digging up just to see what it looks like at this point, and it's just roots down there. I think you're supposed to mound up around the plant. Haven't really done that, but I also didn't plant them shallow to start with, so we'll see. This is just kind of a trial and error, learn as I go kind of thing. The corn's looking really good. I've surpassed knee-high by 4th of July at this point with a lot of them. If you remember, this area right here did not sprout right away. So I went in and planted more seeds later on. This is another example of what I think might be an okra or a weed I've been babying in my corn plants. So over here I knew I planted okra because I labeled it okra. Hopefully it's not this, because I've been pulling these out thinking they're weeds. I was thinking it might be this plant, which looks a lot like those others that I've shown you, so I'm really not too sure. Or maybe it's this one. I don't know. I've never grown okra before to know, so I guess we'll find out. But I'm really excited about this corn, and so is Kurt. Something else that's changed a lot in our garden are the tomato beds. So I've worked a lot on getting the trellis system set up. And you can see I added the beams that go side to side to support this whole structure, and I have twine tied at the top going down to the bottom, and I'll show you how I secured that. I had these garden stakes and I tied the twine to that, stuck it in the ground, and then the plant I just wrap around the twine. So as it grows, I'll just continue to wrap it. And this is the trellising that I'm trying this year. I'm really excited about it. And yeah, I'll keep you updated on how that goes. But if you remember this bed, I planted a lot of carrot seeds from Baker Creek Farm in this bed a couple weeks ago. Or no, I'm sorry, I think it was just last week. You can see a lot are coming up. So shortly after I planted, the hose broke and they got a very heavy watering. So I wasn't quite sure how these guys were going to do because the seeds are so little, they can get displaced very easily. But they're doing pretty good. They might be tightly sewn together, but we're going to see what happens. I'm really excited. There's a lot of fun colors in here of carrots. And then I also have some cucumbers in here that I'm working on trellising up. So I have this board going across. I'm going to have more going up as they grow. Just got to work on that. But what I have, I'm training them up. I just took this clip that I have I was originally going to use these for tomatoes, but didn't end up needing them. So I clipped one of these tomato rings. I'll link them in the description, everything that I'm using here. Put it around the plant gently, and then to just get them to get to this support beam, use some twine to hold them up. And then eventually these little things, I'm not sure what they're called, but they'll grab onto this board or this string if I leave that there, and hold themselves up eventually and continue to climb up with some help. And then over here I have the more tomatoes, trellis the same way. There's onions growing between these tomatoes and pole beans on both sides. I also planted some melons not long ago. I might have actually planted those on one of these garden tours, but just some fun melons that I got in from Baker Creek Farms that might have gone in too late, but I figured I would try a couple seeds. So they came up. I just don't know if I planted them soon enough for them to actually produce fruit this growing season. I have a couple of tray of flowers out here. I think you guys saw these last week. I still have to plant these. That is on the to-do list. The squash plants back here are doing pretty well. I'm still struggling with my squash bug problem. I'm trying to deal with it organically, so every day I just come out here and look under the leaves and collect bugs off of the plants and get rid of them. I tried to feed them to the chickens, but even they didn't really want anything to do with them. So I actually ran out of time to do this yesterday. So I'm going to be doing that after this garden tour. That plant looks okay, but usually I go back and double check them because those things are really good at hiding. I have been watching some videos on it, and if you water, see there's one down there. They blend in really well, but you can see it right there under the stalk. And a lot of times I've noticed they hide behind the stalks too. You want to check the leaves really good for eggs too, because if those eggs hatch, you're really in trouble. I've been watching a lot of videos on it, and it's easier to find them if you water your plants first, because they'll climb up out of like wherever they're hiding to try to not drown. So I found that helpful if I water first and then look for them. But the pumpkin plants over here are doing good. We've got another zucchini plant here. They're just kind of extra plants that I planted back here, and they seem to be doing pretty well too. I don't really see any zucchinis on here yet, but it's only a matter of time. Acorn squash, butternut squash, my birdhouse gourd, which I'm really hoping produces. That might be a little late. The original one died, and then I just put another pumpkin next to it. And then the dahlias, I haven't really given an update on lately. I actually just weeded these a couple weeks ago, and it needs it again already. I have 150 dahlias back here, and they're doing pretty well. They're coming up So I'm really excited for these to be in bloom. I'm hoping that goes well. It's my first year growing them. This one is one that I babied since March, and it's really big but not really producing any real stems with flowers yet, but I just have to be patient. I did pinch this one, so. Hey babies! What are you guys doing? You're covered in burrs again! What are you doing? Hi baby! You want to say hi to our YouTube friends? Thank you so much for joining me today on my garden tour. I love having you guys here in my garden with me and just showing you the progress that's been made, how much the plants grow, and tips that I've learned along the way. I learn as I go, and I am far from an expert, but I'm happy to share what I learn with you. And yeah, thank you so much for being here, and be sure to hit subscribe to be notified when I share more videos. Also, please follow along on Instagram at Diana Marie Home for daily updates, and also my blog, DianaMarieHome.com, is another place that I share content frequently. So thank you again, and I will see you next week.